Hi everyone, this is Grace. And today, wow, I'm gonna walk you through this beginner sports class. I probably could have, should have, would have re-recorded that, but y'all, this is where I'm at today. Okay, this is beginner sports. There is an advanced, how would I call it? Oh yeah, sports party class, which is a whole other level of sports balls with royal icing. But here we are rocking the simplest techniques absolutely possible to make all of these different sports balls come true. We love that for us. This first one is the basketball. I personally, basketball is the only sport I like. So this one holds a special place in my heart. Now, what makes this a beginner class? Well, my friends, we use my signature one consistency outline and flood. It is my thick flood. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the consistencies video on my YouTube page. I'm a weirdo and I have different ways of explaining my consistencies. I don't do like the seconds method. So yeah. This is all one consistency, which even these lines here are one consistency. This is a thick flood. There are techniques that I use here to, how do you say, like, make it possible to do things like line work with one consistency. But that is the beauty of this class, of the beginner classes. If you've ever worked with royal icing, you know how valuable it is to just have one consistency. It means less time spent prepping, fewer bags of icing. It's also easier to apply than a two consistency outline and flood because there's more flexibility in the outline, quite literally. Yes, which is great for a beginner. It is a little bit harder to make because you're looking for just the right kind of Goldilocks, not too thick, not too thin consistency. But it's what I do for all of my beginner classes, and it really simplifies things. And I know that people appreciate it, so we love that. One could even say, I mean, these designs are so simple that kids could actually make them, which I think is also super fun too. You know, get your kids together, grandma, grandpa, whatever, and decorate some sports balls together. I'm not sure what. Oh, let's talk about the colors. Okay. So the orange of that basketball is orange that is deeper, richer, whatever. And I add a little bit of brown to that. This football here is just brown. But let's talk about the shape of the football. I actually did use a circle cutter for this, and I just used the circle cutter to chop off a little bit of the top of it to create that more football shape, so that this entire set is in fact made with circles. If you want to go out and buy an actual football cookie cutter, you are more than welcome to do so. I was just trying to, simplify things. We love that for us. Yes. Okay. If it is a true thick flood, you are going to need a scribe like I'm doing here to help it settle. That's one way that you'll know if you've really made a thick flood versus what is more like a thin flood. The key here to doing line work with a flood consistency, you can see it in that edit, is that you let each layer of lines dry so that you get, or let them crust over so that you get the definition in between the different lines. If I had just done those crisscrosses without waiting, then they would have melted into each other, which is not a good vibe, right? What is this next one? I don't know. Maybe it's the soccer ball. Probably. Oh, I don't know. Soccer, volleyball. I would say that the difficulty level between this class and the sports party class is a huge difference. So much so that in the sports party class, I do give recommendations for how you can simplify those designs to basically make them more like these designs, but you're doing a two consistency outline and flood, which gives you more refinement and more refinement in like the execution and the details. Yeah. Okay. My brain is all over the place today. Those holes are to help prevent craters. Love that for us. The key to black is to allow the icing to develop. I will start my black icing 24 to 48 hours before I need to use it. That allows you to really slowly increase like how much food coloring you're using to give it plenty of time to develop, because as it develops, it gets darker, which we love. Another key is that with any color, but especially the darker colors like black, for example, you don't want it to be black in the bowl before you bag the icing. You want it to be just shy of black, like a super dark gray, because as you bag the icing, decorate, and as it dries, it will continue to get darker and darker. If it's already a truly full saturated black in the bowl, that means you've added too much food coloring, because it's just going to go further than that the more it sits and dries and all of that. And the problem with oversaturating your icing is that it can taste funny, it can dry funny, kind of crumbly, it can bleed, lots of the problems. This color here gave me the biggest problems, or not the biggest problems. I was trying to figure out, is this yellow? Is it green? I landed on a very chartreuse lime green situation. So it starts with blue and then, or does it start with yellow? Oh, I completely forgot. This is why I love having classes for my sets, because in all the workbooks, I give you instructions on, like, I can't remember if I started with yellow with this or if I started with blue. Genuinely don't remember. I don't know. I might have started with yellow and then added the tiniest bit of yellow at a time. I really don't know. Wow. I also made these cookies back in May. It's now October. So there's that part of it too. With the way I do make my content and classes, I do them in like weird batches at weird times of the year. So there's that. This is really simple, but one of my favorites, this tennis ball. The sanding sugar just adds like the simplest extra effect that just takes it to the next level. Who doesn't love that? For my white icing, I do add a little bit of white food coloring just to make it a bright white. I flavor my icing with lemon juice, which does color the icing ever so slightly. If you're using vanilla extract, though, that's definitely going to color the icing slightly. Some people will add the tiniest bit of purple because it's the opposite side of the color wheel to yellow, and it will cancel it out if there is any yellowing of your icing. But why did I poke that hole? Oh, that was just right, to give me a marker. This is the Volleyball, super simplified execution of this. This set was, in a way, almost so simple that I felt silly making it into a class. But there is an art, pun intended, to all of these different designs and how to do them well and how to make the colors and the consistencies and all that stuff. But as you can see, these are pretty much all just flooded with a little bit of, detail line stuff on the top. When you're doing a one consistency outline and flood, do not go all the way to the edge. As you can see here, I left a little bit of space. That is so that the icing can spread out naturally on its own a bit. Otherwise, you risk it overflooding, falling off the edge of the cookie, which is not ideal. This is this is the simplest cookie ever. It is just flooded white, and then I do the crackle on top. But it's also the most perfect, simple beginner execution for a golf ball. Like, how perfect is this? In hindsight, what I could have done to make it even more perfect was to have done the crackle more methodically, because you know the indentations of a golf ball they're not just like haphazard. They're in a very precise pattern. But hindsight's always 2020, is it not? Oh man. Okay, I think that's the entire set. Is it? Yes, it is. Okay, that's the beginner sports class. The sister class to Sports Party. Sports Party has a whole bunch of different lettering options. You can do it for birthday, bachelor party, baby shower. I'm sure there are other things in there. Or you can just make the sports balls and not do any of the lettering, your choice. So, as always, thanks so much for joining me for this video. I hope you learned a thing or two. Maybe you fell asleep, even better. And maybe you will try the cookies yourself. That's all I have to say, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.